Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Just want to make sure that we are on. Welcome to Leading with Light. This morning, we continue or maybe end the series on building relationships that strengthens leadership well-being, being visible, but also being invisible. We are moving from our session from last week. We thank those who have joined and who are joining. I want to say welcome to everyone. I'm so excited that you are here today. And I want to just say that this session is especially for those who are leading very well, but you feel lonely, you're working hard, but you're not happy. In fact, you're working very hard, but you are not seeing making the impact or seeing the growth that you desire. And so today I want to welcome Maria. Okay, welcome Franklin. So today I want to talk about how strategic faith aligned relationships can actually shift you from burnout to breakthrough or from isolation to impact. For those, of course, who don't know me, I am Dr. Marcia Thomas, and I am a Christian leadership life coach and consultant, and I am also an author, best-selling author, and I am a motivational speaker. I speak about leadership, life and leadership issues and self-care issues for leadership development as a motivational speaker. And I also help persons who are completing their master's and their PhD or doctoral program to smoothly transition and progress in the start of their research to the end of their dissertation. Again, I am talking about today building strategic relationships that strengthen leadership well-being, and I always prepare a slide for those who have requested it by popular demand that I think it's benefiting a lot of persons. So let me move to that screen while I welcome Dr. Leslie. Thank you for joining us and for your continuous support and for last week. Thank you so much. I want to welcome Shauna. I see you on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining. Of course, those who don't know, I'm also on YouTube. And so there are persons who join there. I want to start with a statement that I value, and it says the right relationships don't just grow your career, they restore your soul. And as a Christian leadership coach, that is really hinged on self-care and soul care, I think that's very important because from the abundance of the heart, the soul operates, speaks, moves, and have its being. It's from that abundance that vision is birthed and it is nurtured, that hope rises, that faith is centered, resilience is built, and all of those things. And it is from your soul that your mind becomes in sync with your spirit. So we want to understand that collaboration and why the right relationships doesn't just grow your career, but nurtures your soul. For those who have joined and feel that someone would benefit from this presentation, this session today, I want you to just share the link and I want you to do the nudge person so they can actually benefit. For those who are going to be looking at the replay, I want to say share your thoughts, share your opinions, share your questions. I always get back to them. All right. Good morning, Nicole. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you. So the talking points today will be we'll talk about strategic relationships and how they help leaders shift from silent struggle to supported success. I also want to explore how connection fuels clarity and courage and well-being for all individuals. And so those will be the talking points this morning. as we wrap up the series. As we look at just a recap as we look at what we looked at last week when we talk about leadership depression. We talked about isolation and how it shows up differently in males and females. We talk about overcommitment, how it shows up, and leadership depression in itself, this disconnect, how it impacts males and female leaders. And we presented some strategies. Of course, I'm taking it apart just a little by the request of some persons. So what I do every week on my YouTube is really the response that I get from persons and what they want me to elaborate on. And those also in my sessions, what they talk about, how they want to tie their vision and their ambition, how they want to negotiate and navigate their faith. And because I'm a Christian leadership coach, of course, it will be leaned to that side of it, and also because I am a Christian. And so most of what is here is really centered on my core values and beliefs, and others are centered on the core values and beliefs of my clients, of my family, of my friends who inform what I do on this program. So just for a reminder that 61% of leaders report feeling lonely in their roles. And of course, we get that from the Harvard Business Review. Sorry. And we know that isolation is linked to poor decision making, stress, and burnout. And isolation is one of the greatest silent threats to leadership. Leadership isolation. Leaders need safe places to process, plan, and be poured into. And so those are the takeaways from the two sessions that this is culminating. Thank you so much for joining, Curtis, Charito, good evening. Thank you for being here. And yes, Dr. Leslie, self-leadership relationship is first. You must be true to yourself so that you are not false to any man, my mantra. And you must also be aware of what triggers you and how you trigger others, and the discipline that you need to make the appropriate choices that emanate from logic and facts and not merely emotions. So self leadership is first. All right, we identified some gaps in the males versus the females in how they respond to the isolation or the depression. And we say men often suffer in silence. So this is because of the cultural pressure where they are expected to always be strong. And most leaders won't say it out loud, whether they are male or females, that they feel isolated or misunderstood, and how they are executing, but their soul is tired, and mentally they are also tired. So we want to look at women also, so men and women who feel unsupported or overlooked despite the sacrifices that they are making, how well they are managing, and the emotional availability of wanting someone to just spend some time pouring into them the way they are pouring into others, wanting to feel safe and secure, wanting to feel appreciated and valued, and also wanting to feel understood. So they often feel unsupported and overlooked, especially in a male dominated industry where you have to be 5 times as good as your male counterpart to be even recognized. What is the fact or the truth? Both persons, both leaders, both individuals need safe places for vulnerability and spiritual renewal. So they need a space where they feel safe sharing how they're really feeling and getting the support and help that they need to move forward, which is to nurture their soul, which is to touch them where it is hurting most, that cannot be seen emotionally, which we call soul care or spiritual renewal. All right, so we want to move with what strategic relationships looks like. because the strategic relationships are not just networking. I don't want you to look at it as networking, because I'm not talking about networking in any shape or form. I am talking about an intentional alignment. The intentional alignment is where you connect with people because you recognize them who sharpen you, who challenge you, who stretch you, and who support you. The people who remind you, and sometimes they are not in your family, they are not in your immediate environment or at your work, but these persons who stretch you, challenge you, support you, and sharpen you are those who constantly remind you, because they know for sure that you are anointed for this job. So they remind you of your anointing. They help to cement your why and to refocus you when you have lost sight of your vision and your ambition. Because I'm not talking about ambition as wanting to achieve or to gain or whatever. I'm talking about what Dr. Leslie has raised just a little here, the self-image. Believing in yourself, your self-worth, reclaiming what is rightfully yours, you're reconnecting with your soul, embracing your purpose, your calling, what you love to do, and what you're good at is what I call ambition. Your ambition. That's your unique ambition to serve in a particular capacity using your unique gifts and talents. And also, your vision is how you interpret this place and this role, and how you are deciding or recognizing the delivery of this particular role, particular purpose, particular assignments associated with your purpose or your calling, that is embedded and is powered by your unique gifts and talents. Good morning, Lisa. Thanks for joining. And all those who have shared the link, thank you so much also. So, what do strategic relationships look like? They support your well-being and not just your work. So it's particular. They care about these relationships, check in on you when you are not checking in. These relationships focus on what you're not saying. And these relationships point you to your creativity and your innovation, that innovative side of you. So they it's not a push, it's not a pull. It is a normalized encouragement and understood support, that persons understand that you're always there for them in good and bad. That is what strategic relationships look like. They challenge you to grow spiritually as well as professionally. And they also remind you of your purpose when you forget. And they're reciprocal, meaning that what you give, you get, and what you get, you have no issues giving, because there is this trust and truth that is clear, and there is this accepted vulnerability that says, I love and accept you and support who you are, and also who you are becoming. And so when there are dull moments, when there are seasonal dips, when there is a faith questioning, they don't judge you. They understand where you're coming from. They interpret your actions and your tensions, and they navigate you through this darkness into the light. And these are the strategic relationships that are very hard to find and very distant, especially in the current climate of how things are going. Persons are so caught up with their own issues that sometimes they are not able to maneuver what truly matters. And it takes a lot of resilience and brute force and intentional focus to lead yourself and to lead those who are expecting you to be there for them, and who are also to accept and appreciate those who are always there for you. Because in this complex context of life and how it is playing out, it's not as easy as it was before. And of course, I welcome the points, I welcome any questions, I welcome your studied and your expertise in this session, because it's so important and nobody knows everything. I want to present a biblical model, some biblical models of why I think strategic relationships are very important. Very, very important. In fact, if we are to talk about it, we understand that strategic relationships doesn't mean that there is more work. It's not, it's not, it's not a being surrounded by people. That's what I want to say. It's not a case where you are surrounded by people, because sometimes you are surrounded by people but you still feel lost, you still feel unseen, you still feel emotionally alone. And many husbands and wives experience that when they are leaders or CEO, because the time that they get to spend with each other is very limited. There are many children who feel like that because parents who are usually at this level tend to put their care into the hands of others so they can pour into their workplace and into their work environments and get your accolades and get the achievements and meet the deadlines and also the turning points and be able to remain viable and visible and not be left out of any of those walls. And so sometimes children are feeling like that, feeling very alone emotionally and being actually feeling unseen and misunderstood. So we are not talking about being surrounded by people. I want it to be clear when I talk about strategic relationships. I am talking about the solution not being more work, but more meaningful connections to what truly matters to yourself, to your vision, your ambition, your purpose, your ultimate source. Thank you, Dr. Leslie, for agreeing with the definition of ambition. Yes. Ultimate masterminds are there. So we're looking at the biblical models of strategic relationships, and we're looking at Moses and Aaron's model, where Aaron supported Moses in carrying his leadership burdens. And when Moses was afraid to speak, Aaron spoke on his behalf. We find that in Exodus 4:14-16. You can do your own look at it, you can take your own touch. All right, so thanks for joining, Marie. I haven't seen you for such a long time. I love that. All right, so it's Nicole that agrees with the definition along with Leslie, Dr. Leslie. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we want to also look at Paul and Timothy, the mentorship and the legacy that was left there. And of course, we look at also Moses and Joshua. We look at the legacy that was left there through mentorship. So sometimes we need persons support to support us in our burdens, and then sometimes we need persons to mentor us and help us to chart our legacy, put it in perspective. And then there's Ruth and Naomi, and we have that loyalty and direction that was given mutually from each other. And so strategic relationships are very important, and they have a model. They are not new, but the thing about them is that they must be very intentional. And sometimes God places persons on our paths that we call destiny helpers, which are really putting the persons in our path to create and build these strategic relationships. We have to be very clear as we see it. Okay, this describes my relationship with Leslie. Which of them, Nicole? Which of those? All right, so I see your question, Charito. In a company of different religions, how do we connect them to lead in a setting That does not sound like inclining towards a dominant group. We focus on the goals of the institution. We focus on the vision and mission, and we focus on why we are there. And we appreciate difference. So we allow persons to test themselves to see what they can produce. And we see, we try to understand in a very inclusive way how persons' core values play out and what it means to them, because the belief of someone is different from the core value of someone. So the core values is the character that is carried forward in all areas of their lives, including their work, and the belief can either kill or cure. And so a core value would be that I'm honest right through. So in any religion, there are principles that govern your core values that come from a fortification of beliefs that you embrace because you get the value or you get rewards or fulfillment from living that way consistently. And so persons might have beliefs that do not correspond with their core values. You want to make sure that you look at what people do and not what people say. You actively listen to how they're affected and how this plays out in their responses and their loyalty and commitment. And you start from there. I hope that answered your question, Charito, because you have to meet people where they are, and people don't care how much you know. They just want, it's very important that they know how much you care. And caring represents itself in understanding, in inclusion, in clarification, in active listening, and in treating people the way you would want to be treated if the situation is reversed. That will open the door for acceptance, unconditional acceptance. It doesn't mean, though, that there are some persons who are militant in what their beliefs are and they do not entertain anything else. You will find that those values, the organization should have no intention of changing. What they must do is nurture acceptance and an inclusiveness as far as it is possible, because you want to live peaceable with all men as far as it is possible. And if it is not a mutual or reciprocal understanding, then someone has to be separated. And when you separate, it must be voluntarily separation. Persons must understand that your beliefs, your values are not sitting well here. And you must encourage them using the voice of grace and mercy, and also a healing delivery to say to them, this is where we have to part ways, but this is where I think, or what do you think would be your exit plan, and so on. So it's very important that we do it from a point of view of how we want to be treated. And difficult people are not easy to deal with. But if we look at it as a mission of healing, it becomes a little easier. So let's talk about some relationship types that leaders need. Some relationship types that leaders need. Very important. These types are very, very important. And we want to look at the mentors. Mentors. Who is pouring into you? And so we want to look at that. Mentors are those who come with wisdom and give you wisdom from the journey. Where do they get this wisdom from? From experience, from their mistakes, from their failures. And so they know that the road less traveled is a road that you are now traveling. And so they are able to say to you, this might just help. How are you feeling? How are you interpreting this? How is it affecting you? What do you think are your next steps? Those are very good persons to put in. So they are not telling you what to do. They are pulling from you how you are feeling, where you are standing, your mindsets, your beliefs, and then they are showing you how it hinders you and what you may need to from inside of you. They pull it from you. So you take a look at the label from the outside, because it's harder to see the label or read the label when it's inside the container or the bottle. And so they are the wise ones that pull you out in that way. Thank you for joining us, Shem. I see you also, Mark. Thank you so much. Then there are peers that you must have those types of relationships. So they become your accountability partners and your collaborators. All right. And then there are coaches that gives you clarity and growth. And clarity is very important. And we want to look at the difference between the coach and the therapist, because the therapist pulls you over the edge, but the coach pulls from you what is already in you, and the illumination, the self-awareness that you need, reclaiming your self-worth, your vision, and your ambition. And so we are guides. We walk with you. We walk you through your mind, the corridors of your mind, the parts of your spirit that you have lost connection with. We pull you back into that soul place, that spirit place, that mental place that is the center of your belief in yourself, your self-worth, your ambition, your vision, your purpose, your calling. We pull you into what you want to do, what your next steps are, and we allow you to look into yourself, to find out what is it that hinders you, what propels you, what gives you joy, and so on. The therapist requires a license and those indications. And sometimes I am making that clarification because sometimes people think that coaches are counselors or they are therapists or they are doctors, but they aren't. Your coach is your accountability partner, your purpose circle. So we give clarity, we help you to grow, we move to where you want to be, and help you to map out the path on how you want to get there. All right. Then the types of relationship must include safe places where you can emotionally and spiritually check into yourself and can also download those emotions, those beliefs, those issues that are driving you into your frustration peak, or pulling you into that depressed state or that disconnect state or that unhappy state or that state where you are not making a significant impact, or you're not feeling the growth, that disgruntled state because you don't feel valued or appreciated and you're constantly misunderstood, that silent lonely place where you are hanging in to hurts and pains that you can't shift from, that place of burnout, that place where you just feel stuck despite the fact that you're working so hard, that place that makes you not want to get up out of bed in the mornings and pull you to drag yourself, that place. Dr. Leslie, that's a cheek. You can't see the label from inside the wine bottle, all other bottles too. All right, so let's talk about the spiritual mentor. You see, that spiritual mentor, that must be a relationship that you also have. Is that person or that group of persons that cover your soul and your purpose? Pulls it from you, whether through prayer, through meditation, through allowing you to vent, but vent with a certain understanding of hope and faith and endurance and resilience. And then the peer ally understands the pressure. It's a leader like you that understands the pressure, the invisible weights that you're carrying because of territorial understanding and contextual delivery. And they understand the emotional fatigue that you're having and the decision making fatigue that leaders carry with them, and the expectations overwhelm that everybody, you must be all things to all persons. And so you need a peer ally that understands your leadership pressure and can take you from that place where you are to where you want to be, joyful and happy, fulfilled, impactful, and growing. then you want to have in that circle a legacy builder. Thanks for joining, Ricardo. So happy to have you. This legacy builder helps to invest in your future vision. So they believe in you and they push you into your anointing and they fuel your commission and they say, yes, it's difficult, but you might not be seeing the results now, but you are serving who you must reach. So don't. Those are the legacy building persons. And you need them because they are not only visionary, they are revelatory. So they see things that you are not able to see, and they understand things that you, because of your beliefs and where you are at this time, the helplessness you're feeling, the questions you're asking yourself, the self-doubt, they are able to see beyond that. And they carry back this dream and vision in a nice little picture in front of you, and they carry you well. And then there are the safe spaces where these persons make you feel safe and whole when you are doing your emotional download. They are an emotional anchor and reminds you who you are outside of your title, outside of your roles, outside of your responsibilities. In fact, they remind you that you are human and that you are capable of doing anything, but you were not born to do everything. And then these safe places have the accountability partner who holds you to your growth, holds you to your mistakes, holds you to your failures, and says to you, that is a part of life. Let us take the steps that we need to get out of here, or to push forward, or to change the trajectory, or to refocus you, or to balance you, or to take you back into the space of your why. Very good. Excellent. Excellent, Dr. Leslie. Yes, you need someone, you need a strategic circle where the relationship is pure and the relationship is natural, the relationship is supportive, the relationship is enabling, where the good is good and the bad is sometimes ugly. Persons are themselves. All right, so we also need to understand how we now move from isolation to impact, because the thing about leadership depression and the thing about standing alone is that you can be in the biggest crowd and you're still alone. You can be getting accolades, but you still feel alone. You can be achieving and you still feel lost. And you can be making strides, meeting your goals and your deadlines, but you still feel devalued and you still feel that you're not making that impact or growth. There is still this restlessness, this longing, this gap in your soul. There is a misalignment. You can't understand it, you can't describe it, because you need to take time to look at what it is, because it requires you to take a lot of risk, and that's the hidden cost of isolation. It requires you to take risks. It pulls you out of your comfort zone, and sometimes you don't know that you're feeling that feeling is not palpable until you take your well-deserved vacation, or you suffer a loss like a divorce, or the loss of a child or a loved one, or until you find yourself being betrayed, or there is a shift or a disturbing layoff or reclassification in your organization. And then you feel and you start asking the question, was it worth it after all? Because it's as if the rug is pulled from underneath your feet and you're now pushed into this self-awareness where you recognize that you were not happy, or you are in fact feeling helpless, or you're feeling lost, or you're propelled into your brilliant business idea that you have been having dormant, that is pulling on you, that you're good at, that you love, that you're doing as a hobby or you're doing naturally, and you start to make that exchange. So we want to understand that we we can't live without human connection or meaningful connection. God did not design it that way. However, we not everybody is to be carried along with you in your calling. Strategic relationships doesn't mean that you include persons who can help you. No, there are several persons out there that can help you. When you go into the store, there are several red jackets that are there. You fit them, you try them on, you choose this one is not the right red, this one is a little too red, this one is a little off, and then you get the right one. It's still a red jacket, but you choose from among a group. That is strategic relationships. You're choosing one that you're very comfortable with, that highlights your skin color, that gives you a certain ambience, that gives you the warmth, that is durable, that is strong and lasting, and that's worth your money. That's what we do. And so it's the same thing with strategic relationships and moving from isolation to impact. You see, attention is not friendship. Sometimes we get the attention and people feel like they're caring. You feel like people are caring, but the moment they have gotten the benefits that they desire from you, you are discarded. You don't want to have that. That's not a strategic relationship. The strategic relationship, as we say, it builds you, it furthers what is good in you, it supports you, and it's there for you. And it's also purposeful, it has its place. So impact increases when leaders feel supported. Thank you for joining, Michelle. I see you. All right. Healthy leaders lead healthy teams, and connection fuels confidence. And safe conversations create sharp decisions. The safe conversations. And that's the thing with when you're a leader, you're among persons. And persons must feel you and you must feel them. Persons must feel you and you must feel them. Just as how persons pour into you, you must pour into them. And that's the thing. That's the thing that is very important. Very, very important that we move with that. So we want to look at relationships that align your purpose. We want to look at how we pull those in, because that's very, very, very important. All right. So we want to look at how do you know, now that we know the type of relationships that we want, how do we pull those relationships in? So we want to look at moving from isolation to impact, those safe conversations that you need to ask yourself. And then we want to move to the relationships that align with purpose. How do you choose these relationships? That's the question that you want to answer. How do you choose these relationships that align with your purpose? You want to pray for discernment. And we find that in James 1, verse 5, that guides us to clarify our core values. Who are you in your core? What is it that you will not negotiate, and what is it that you will not compromise? What is your constant when you're asleep and when you're awake? What is it that governs you regardless of where you are or where you're placed or who you are with? And you want to initiate connection with courage also, boundaries and expectations, and you want to stay consistent and authentic. You want to be true to yourself. All right? So faith-filled connections fuel purpose-driven leadership. And I have that because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so you must first build yourself. You must first lead yourself. And to do that, you have to pray for discernment. You have to clarify your core values, become self-aware. You have to understand your emotional intelligence index, what triggers you and how you trigger others. And you want to initiate those strategic connections with the courage and the insight that you have been given and the discernment through intentional focus that comes from meditation and prayer and comes from clarifying who you are and what you're about and how you want to get there. And you want to initiate also the connection, and you want to set the boundaries and expectations so you stay constant and authentic. All right. So I agree with you, Dr. Leslie. Coaches are a dime a dozen. Anyone can say that they're a coach. That means that you have to do your due diligence before hiring one. Very much so. And you can also look at their certification and their experience. You know, I find in my experience that I'm not a fan of testimonials because of I'm a private person. But I find that when you benefit persons, they naturally express how you benefit them and how they benefited from you. And persons are camera shy, and some persons are very guarded because they speak to a coach and they don't want necessarily the name is harder to associate as against a picture. So I am very grateful when my clients give me a video or they give me a picture testimonial that they write. And I'm also very grateful when they just write. That is very valuable as a diligence check, due diligence. And I want to give an experience. I needed something to be done the other day, and I went to an organization. When I clicked on the organization and so on, I wanted to do my due diligence. Dr. Leslie, very important for me because I have been scammed so many times by persons who, what was in the showroom, what is in the storeroom. The showroom that you are seeing is not in the storeroom. And I have had experiences in 2020 that has 2020 to 2021 with reputable persons with these things, and my sister has. Anyhow, to make a long story short, I decided to do a due diligence. So there was somebody there, and I searched for the person. Just by flukes, I put the person's name into Facebook and I saw the person come up. And I clicked on the thing and I see where the person say they are in a particular field and they can be connected. This is not the company, no, this is somebody that has given a testimonial. So I got to the person, and thankfully the person answered me on Messenger, and I said, I'm interested in doing business with this company, and I see that you have a glowing testimonial. And she said to me, I didn't really do a business with them. I was given, a good friend of mine asked me to write something. She described them and I wrote. I can't tell you how disappointed I was. And it struck me that these might be out there. When I began to share it to somebody, the person said to me, that's not new. At least that person was honest enough to say that they wrote what their friends wanted them to write, who actually had that good experience. But she says some people are paid to do the foolishness, to say things that are not true, that have nothing to do with that company. And that is so frightening. And so due diligence must be that you look at certain things and you pinpoint certain things. Pictures are good. Persons who really give their valuable testimony and put themselves out there are good. And those who write and sign are also very good. And so that is where we are at with due diligence. We sometimes need to contact these persons. And if they answer, you want to hear from them, and you will know if they really had an experience or not. All right. So the emotional intelligence index, what does that look like? Tanik, it looks like many things. And so if you want to look at what triggers you, then you want to look at how you interpret, how you feel, why you feel, and when you feel. You want to make that connection. That's basically one of the areas that you want to look at. The triggers are important. Then you want to look at the levers. There are certain levers in emotional intelligence that pull you from one place to the next. So your beliefs, very important. How does your beliefs hinder or help you is one of the index that you want to put there. So it's self-awareness that points to the self-worth, self-actualization, fulfillment, what triggers you when you're triggered, how you're triggered, and so on. You want to look at that. The beliefs that come from habits and routines that have been consistent or embedded or fortified in your spirit, and the trauma, the residual trauma that is left there based on how you responded to those things are also one of the things you want to look at. And from the emotional index, it's different for different industries. As persons are saying, your emotional intelligence is shaped differently in different industries. I see that they value certain things in emotional intelligence based on what you are, the deliverables that are in that organization. So I'm speaking generally about what triggers you, how you're triggered. I'm talking about your beliefs. And I also want to look at how you trigger others. Because emotional intelligence have what I call four components. So you have the inner, so your mental intelligence, your emotional intelligence, your spiritual intelligence, and your social intelligence. And I break that down into categories. So I hope that answered the question to a certain point. Ah, very good, Nicole. That is why Leslie is a part of my publishing team, credentials and alignment. Very good. And I am with you too. I don't want any recommendations unless people have worked with me. And I'm not giving one if I have not worked with someone either. That's me. Thank you so much for those valuable points. And I also want to say that there are some persons who tell you what they're saying, and they're saying, call my name and you can use my picture, but I don't like to do videos. I don't want to do videos. And there are some persons who say to you, I don't want to do a video because of other issues that will impact me. And so I'll just put my name, and I accept those persons because life is real. And you put it real and you put it out there. And then there are some persons who say, I am not inclined. I don't want to write a testimonial or a video, but you can give them my number, my WhatsApp, and they can speak to me. Just tell me, just say to me, okay, Mark is there, because I don't answer everybody. So if you say Mark, or this is the number that you are to expect, so I don't decline or I don't ignore it. And I find that those are the things that are happening right now. And so those are the adjustments I have to be making as a certified coach. And I want to put that in because I'm certified. All right. So I have some reflection questions that I want you to answer. Where are you leading from? Empty or overflow? Know that you look. Who truly knows what you're carrying? Who is in your group? Where are you emotionally isolated? Because of course I'm saying I'm pushing on the emotional side. And who do you need to invite into your leadership life? Do you need to have more allies? Do you need to have a coach? Do you need to have a spiritual guide or mentor? Do you need to have a safe place? You have to decide where you are resting. You have to decide where you're resting. And so we want to look at the takeaways for today, for next week. And the first takeaway that I want us to look at is our isolation. Isolation is a hidden leadership threat. And leadership is not meant to be lonely. God created us for community. We should not be carrying our burdens alone. Strategic relationships are your leadership purpose lifeline. These are the connections that, as I said before, challenge, uplift, and hold you accountable. And Jesus built a trusted inner circle, and so should you. So I'm saying, and I'm reminding us that it is not networking, but it is purposeful alignments that are intentional. We must be sure, we must feel the sharpening, we must feel the stretching, we must feel the support. Support is felt, it is not spoken. And if we are not feeling that, we need to examine our circle. We need to do our audit. So well-being requires boundaries and vulnerability. You can't impact others while you're secretly empty. We made that point also. You can't pour into others if you have nothing poured into you. And so strategic self-care includes setting those boundaries, allowing others to pour into you, and creating space for emotional restoration. And we looked at the example where Moses and had Aaron and her to hold up his hands. You need people who can help you to stay lifted. I'm happy that I have a lot of those persons in my circle. You know, Tanik is one of them. I have Dr. Leslie, I have Karen, Pascal, I have Joan, I have Ronnie, I have Charito. Those persons are Lisa out there in your circle. Several persons, Dr. Ava. We could go on and on. We have Marlene Foster. Those persons are Dr. Janice Brooks. Those persons are out there. They're in your circle. You feel them. You know them. They check on you. They help you to strive. They remind you of your anointing. That's what I'm talking about. Your voice thrives in safe, purpose-aligned spaces. Leaders lose influence when their voice is silenced, either by fear. And remember, we did a session where you're shut down in the boardroom and so on, and you must make your voice be heard with grace. You must be that voice of grace when reason is absent. And you must also leave that feeling of healing on persons. And so you must be intentional about how your delivery, how you fill that space, what you leave in that space when you have left the healing that you bring to that space, that awareness, that awakening, and that change of the outcome when you enter that space. So you're not to be silenced by fear or burnout or imposter syndrome. And that is why strategic communities restore clarity, courage, and conviction. Because God really calls us to lead with boldness, not burnout. And we have to be very particular about how we carry that forward. And so, as I said before, you want to pray for discernment. You want to make sure that you clarify your core values. You want to make sure you initiate connection with the courage that is required. You want to set the boundaries and expectations, and you want to stay consistent and authentic. And then, if this conversation resonates with you, you want to start today. I'm saying let's start today by building relationships that pours back into your soul, not those that drain you, not those that leave you feeling worse off than who you are. All right. So you don't want to be leading from empty. You want to be leading from overflow. And you don't want to do it alone. And so I say to you, audit your circle. I am resonating that again. Audit your circle, and you want to pray for divine connections. When you audit your circle, there are also persons there who are networking and they can do things for you. But you want to ensure that you are intentional in your alignment and you align with people who sharpen you, who stretch you, who challenge you, and who support you. And so God will make you choose from among those myriad of persons who must be on your strategic network. And if you're ready, I'd really love to work with you. So I invite you to take these next steps. DM me Impact to join our next Purpose Leadership Circle, and also schedule your Soul Sync strategy session so we can work together to realign your leadership, your calling, and your soul health for sustainable impact today and beyond. But if you're not ready, I always say some people are not quite ready. You want to do your free, which is a quick purpose alignment audit. And that is the link is on my profile, LinkedIn profile, to see where you are on your purpose and faith journey. And you want to pre-order my new book, My Faith Looks Up. You'll get some guidance from that. So I hope you benefited from this. I want to thank you all for supporting, coming in. Remember that you're a leader. You're not just a leader, you're a vessel, and your soul matters. God is not calling us to lead on fumes or overdraft. He's calling us to lead from overflow or abundance. Let's get there together. Have a blessed Self-Care Tuesday and see you next week. Bye, everyone. Thanking all persons who supported. Tani, thank you so much. which is Nathan. All right, I think that was Allison, and I want to thank you, Nicole, for taking the time. I want to thank you, Leslie, for taking the time. I want to thank you, Charito Ricardo. Thank you so much, Ashim. Thank you so much. I hope I called your name correct, Asim or Asim. Charito, thank you. Lisa, thank you. Thank you so much, Franklin. I see you, Simone. Thank you, Maria. Marie, thank you so much. And I also want to thank you, Curtis. Thank you so much. And I want to thank Angela, I see you there. Roy, I see you too. Roy Dell, sorry. I see you. And all those who have joined, those who are listening to the replay, please remember to add your comments. They are welcome. And as I say, have a great, blessed day and also a marvelous rest of your week. See you next week. Bye.